Hey guys, we're here today with another Zab Gaming review. Today we're talking about Jedi Fallen Order. Now this is a game that I've been really nervous about just for a long time, despite how good it looked and everything. It's just Star Wars games lately particularly have been really mixed. But today, luckily, we have some really good things to say about Jedi Fallen Order. First of all, this game is one of those games that borrows very heavily from a lot of other different games. Some that immediately popped up were like Uncharted, Tomb Raider, Sekiro more than any other Soulsborne game, maybe Metroid, and a lot of like 90s platformers, but more than any of those, it really just kind of feels like a Star Wars game, like a good Star Wars game, which I think a lot of them have their own things in common. Now, climbing is one thing you'll do a lot of in terms of platforming, and it's pretty standard. Nothing will really stick out too much for you, except maybe some of the wall running, it's not quite super fluid, at least not as much as I had hoped. It's not Titanfall level wall climbing, let me just say that. And, so far with the difficulty, I'm on the next to highest difficulty, and there's obviously one more above me, two more below me, and this one seems pretty middle of the road. It's definitely challenging, but not brutally so. You won't be like pulling your hair out unless you're just really stuck at some points, which happens to me. Has happened to me sometimes in this game where I just am not quite used to everything, or there's an enemy that I'm not preparing for enough, like I think is going to be a lot easier than it is, and I'm just not trying hard enough. Which to me that happened a good bit until I eventually got used to the game and just how it plays and everything. While we're on the topic of combat, I will just bring up my little review here. So I started off playing on mouse and keyboard, and it was fine. It just didn't quite feel entirely correct. So I kind of did a rating system for all these. For the weight, I put a 7, pacing a 6, and satisfaction gameplay, I went back to a 7, although I would probably put it more of a 6.5. However, I eventually switched over to an Xbox controller, plugged that in, and then I would at least bump everything up at 1 point, if not more. So it's much more satisfying if you use a controller, and it just feels a lot better and more natural. So then, if we get into the story of it, it's a good story. I haven't finished it yet. I kind of just wanted to get this review out, but I wanted to play at least. I'm probably around 10 hours in, maybe 8 or 9. But it's pretty good. It flows very well. I had pacing in here put out at an 8. It doesn't always keep you moving. Obviously you have some levels where you're just running around and doing stuff, which is good, but you're not always actively learning more about the story. Sometimes you're just doing something, or you just have room to explore, which again, that's good, but it brings down the pacing just ever so slightly. Fluidity, going from one thing to another, I put it at a 7, but I think that's just because I didn't entirely know where to put it. It may be a little higher, because it does flow pretty well. It is a little bit open, so after you get off the first planet that you visit, you have an option to go to a few different planets, but they really tell you 2 different ones, though if you choose one of them, then you're not really going to be able to make any progress, so that kind of slowed me down a little. Relevance to the overall Star Wars story, I put it at an 8. Again, that's probably where I'm going to come back to for a lot of this. But it seems very relevant. Obviously, it takes place between episodes 3 and 4. This is just after they issued Order 66 and tried to wipe out all the Jedi. All this is stuff that you probably would know if you've paid any attention to the advertisements. Graphics, I have to say, they're very mixed. This is the most mixed part of the game, in my opinion. When it's on, it is really on. It looks phenomenal. But when it's off, or when it's just not on, it's very standard, maybe even substandard. It just looks kind of dull. It's fine. It just seems to lack texture many times when it's not perfect. But it's fine. Like it's not terrible. I'll just say. And then if we get to sound, I think the voice acting is fantastic in this game. One of the best aspects of this game, in my opinion. Everyone so far that I've interacted with seems to be top-notch acting. Music, it's pretty standard Star Wars suite. So a lot of John Williams reminiscent. And then you have a few other things every once in a while that are a little more unique. So I put that at an 8, and I had put the voices at a 9, just because I didn't want to give it a perfect score.
Something strange. Those winds are interfering with our comms.
Hey, Cordova mentioned something about peace in the eye of the storm. Well, I can just make out a settlement in the middle of it.
Then we have to get there.
Copy that.
Effects are also very reminiscent of, well, it's very Star Wars, in line with Star Wars. So that's another one that I put at like a 9. And level design, each thing it's very nostalgic to me in terms of like a 90s platformer sort of game. So you'll have a lot of pretty open world levels. It is definitely level based. It's not really open world, but you have good level sizes and definitely a lot of places that you will visit, and you'll see that you don't quite have a power yet to get into the next part, so you'll have to come back later once you've progressed a little further, and then you can go back and explore. So that's where the Metroid part really comes in. And there's a good number of collectibles. I would say there's not too many, and they're not too sparse, and they really do kind of help fill in some of that extra little story if you're looking for it. And so that's it. Like, again, I would say it definitely feels like it borrows from a lot of different games, but more than anything, it feels like a good Star Wars game. And I know they can be pretty mixed, but it's definitely on the better side of Star Wars, in my opinion. So, yeah, thanks for watching this. I hope you learned something new. I know I'm a little bit late in terms of compared to other people's reviews, but I hope you enjoyed anyway, and if you want more, just let me know, and I'll do as many reviews as you guys want me to. Alright, thanks again. See you next time.